when I think about wealth is not in a number of dollars. Wealth is about having options in what you're going to choose.
So Matt, you're telling me here I'm too worried about the numbers.
That is right. It's time to focus on what's actually most important.
So Matt, when we're talking about feelings and how we feel about our money, because little did we know that those Benjamins have feelings too,
Amen.
right? A little weird. But what is an example of someone that you've worked with that came away just feeling happy, maybe not thinking that they could?
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you've seen hundreds of those.
Yeah, we actually get this very often with my team, all of my team that are financial advisors. There are many times people end in tears, hopefully happy tears.
Yeah.
And most commonly, it's very happy because as they come and they evaluate their situation together, we begin to help them define what that financial dream is. And as they begin to say like, oh, I've saved enough and I think this is going to work. And many times we retire on other terms than what we had initially planned. Either we get sick at a point of our life and we just can't keep up full-time work.
Yeah.
And so it feels a little bit tenuous. Or a family member needs us more than our full-time job does. And so we've switched. But those happy tears can come when they begin to see that this is actually going to work. It's awesome. One example I will share, and I think I've got it anonymous enough that I wouldn't reveal anything, but the advisor had recommended that, why don't you try living on that amount of money just for 2 months and let's get back together and talk about it. He came back and said, that is terrible. I can't live on just that amount of money. So he made a different decision, right?
Yeah.
And I actually don't know exactly whether he didn't retire or he changed some of his financial goals.
Yeah.
But that's one of those that I look and say, you can practice a little bit and see, what is it really going to feel like to retire? There's a lot of emotions, and I think about money too much. It's become this like existential, philosophical discussion because money is, all it is it's an exaggeration or a tool to let us do what we want.
Yeah.
And so when I think about wealth is not in a number of dollars. Wealth is about having options in what you're going to choose. It's about being able to make a decision with how you want to live.
Yeah, you're not pigeonholed into just what you have to do.
That's right.
Yeah. I love that. So when we are looking at retirement, obviously each of us need to define that for ourselves and what that needs to look like, right? What is wealth to Matt is going to be different than what wealth is to Kristalina.
Yeah.
But any advice that you have for people that are like, okay, I need to start thinking about this now.
Yeah.
You know, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I do say that's where a financial advisor does help.
Okay.
To sit down with an advisor that can say, okay, Kristalina, tell me what you want to do with your specific situation, your retirement. There was a lot of questions to answer, some that will be directional more than they are specific. And that goes to the specifics of your life versus someone else. If you say, I have longevity in my genes, and it's probably that, or it's very probable that I'm going to live into my late 90s. Well, great. We need to financially plan just a little bit differently for you than somebody that says, I actually have a limited amount of time. It feels like I might have more significant health issues or otherwise. And so that's where I say, when you're really ready to make a solid plan for retirement, sit down and evaluate that and be honest with yourself about your situation.
Okay.
To say, okay, we can save this amount of money every single year. And if you can, great. A wealth advisor or an advisor, the good news is we're an objective set of eyes. We can say, okay, now you didn't save what you thought you would last year. Why not?
Yeah.
Right. And you begin to say, oh, well, it's because we wanted to do this vacation or wanted to make this purchase. Okay. So let's redefine. What's your real attainable savings goal? And of course, we hope that investments in the market do their thing, but that's only one part of the overall plan.
Yeah, I love that. Very, very cool. What are some of mistakes that we all should avoid when it comes to planning for retirement? Obviously, not saving enough is one of those.
That's a classic
given.
one.
Yeah.
I'll say some of the mistakes that we make is that we borrow from our retirement.
Oh, okay.
And there are reasons to do that.
Yeah.
I'd say it's much too common if we really want to make retirement a high priority. So I'll say make sure that what you put away for retirement actually is put away. And that allows your investments time to grow and fall and grow again. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a normal cycle. A few of the other mistakes I see is that we just don't answer some of the questions that you can answer. Are we going to take Social Security early at the age 62? Or are we going to wait until our full retirement age? Or are we going to wait till 70? Because I actually kind of like working and I just want to work, right? Yeah. That's an easily answered question for what you want to do. So just go ahead and make that plan and do it.
Okay, love that. So one story that I had heard, and you mentioning Social Security, was that someone had, planned their retirement to a T.
Yeah.
They were going to, their spouse was going to outlive them.
Yep.
And it was going to be great, right? They were going to leave them with plenty of money. They were going to work until X. And then, good grief, guess what? None of that happened.
Right.
And obviously we can't predict the future. Matt, if you can, let us all know. We'd be super, super excited about that. But what are your thoughts on that? Does that come back again to that definition of wealth?
Yeah, that definition of wealth, about having options. I think what you want to do is give yourself a plan and be also ready to adjust.
Okay.
It will adjust. I've lived long enough to know that life always is going to throw you a curveball, right? Sometimes it's really, really hyper individual where you say, oh, my health is just lousy. Or it's going to be this global thing, which is COVID, right? Europe is shut down. We can't go, right? But that was our whole retirement plan and we can't go anywhere. And so I think if we allow ourselves to have enough flexibility in all of our plans, that's going to be how you adjust to those things. In retirement and some of those larger savings goals are a balance of your priorities. Do I value the thing today or the experience today more than I value planning for the future, or vice versa?
Yeah.
And so that's again where I say there's definitely going to be curveballs. That road trip from here to the East Coast is a great metaphor because there's always going to be some little thing.
Yeah.
When I was making that road trip, early in my college years, there was construction in Wyoming. I had no idea to plan for. This is also pre-GPS, so it's
that's terrifying.
Yeah, it's not on the map, but that's where I say there's a detour too. It's not going to change your ultimate destination, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I think give yourself enough flexibility. That's where also that emergency fund is pretty impactful.
Yeah. So one thing that I've heard that I want your opinion on, retirement, you should plan every day is a Saturday, right? I think of my Saturdays and they're going to the grocery store, headed to Home Depot, buying all the things, right? That we need to keep going. Is that, talking to my parents, retirement might be kind of like that. I think they're having too much fun.
Yeah. I've heard from a lot of retirees that they think, how in the world did we ever have a full-time job?
Yes.
We are so busy. It's so many grandkids to spoil, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Right? How in the world? I have said that also, is that every day is a Saturday. There are some, sometimes that's in a discussion around expenses or income and what will we be spending.
Yeah.
Some of the normal full-time employee things you're going to save on. Maybe you won't have a commute, right? You may not eat out as frequently. And some of those types of expenses, but it might be offset with now I can do all these projects and suddenly I have new hobbies that I've waited and wanted to develop. And so that's where I will say it's a little bit individual still.
Yeah.
What I have seen though, in my experience with retirees is that that's where you want to have a focus. back to the non-financial things that you would plan for retirement. You want to have a focus and something that is going to be satisfying to you. For me, at least, I hope that I finish and actually just be done with what is often called a honeydew project list.
Yes.
Right? Where you just say, okay, I'm done with that. And heaven forbid you actually get done. The next question is, what next?
Yeah.
And so there's like this existential crisis, right? If there's no other focus. And so that's where I say it actually helps, especially between your partner and you, where you say, let's actually talk about what are the priorities to you?
Yeah.
Again, I've found in my road trip metaphor, the different passengers actually have different priorities. Some, often the dad, is just wanting to get there as fast as we can. Let's just motor through, right? Others are saying, hey, we're passing a lot of gas stations and there's a lot of candy in those gas stations. I want to stop and enjoy it, right? Others are saying, no. As long as we just drive, that's terrific.
Yeah.
And so again, that's where I think our discussion about what do we really want to do in retirement is much more impactful than what the dollars and cents are.
Yeah, I love that. What are your thoughts on a mistake of working longer than needed?
Yeah. So there is an example that we share in our department. Came to a Social Security seminar.
Yeah.
Was excited to get some of the details of Social Security. And if you're aware of Social Security actually increases the longer you delay it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't increase after 70. And he was 72. So he had been working for 2 years longer and not taking Social Security than he should have. Right? That's one of those that I look at and say, dang it.
Yeah.
He just missed. He can't get that money back and hopefully lives until he's 140. But that's where I say it might be a mistake to just keep your head down and work forever. I think there's again more emotional parts to that where you say, am I missing on some of the experiences that I should actually put my focus to?
Yeah. Just
because I'm eager to be in the office.
Yeah.
That's again very, very individual. I don't know that you also. It's not a huge mistake to work longer. In fact, let me share one other example with you. She came to me and she said, "I am sick and tired of working. It's terrible." And she had a lousy manager who happened to be quite young relative to her age. Mm-hmm. So she said, I'm going to take Social Security and I got to get out of here. As we evaluated, I thought that was a terrible decision. She did not have enough money. It's one of these classic cases where she's not saved enough.
Okay.
Through our conversations and through our subsequent appointments, she began to see that maybe she needed to work a little longer. Now, the little silver lining is her manager changed. And I think that eased some of the frustration. But she worked 4 more years until her Social Security had increased every year, and she received enough in her Social Security benefit that would support the majority of all of her expenses.
Awesome.
When I talk to her now, and it's been 10 years or so, she's retired. She's doing her thing. She's loving life, really positive, and she's living on what she needs to live on. If she would have opted to take Social Security early, that's a decision that would be affecting all of her income for the rest of her life, and it would be a lot tighter than it is now.
Yeah. Matt, as we're talking about additional mistakes, talk to me about overpaying on fees.
Yeah, so overpaying on fees is a thing that most people actually don't know to ask about. When you work with an advisor, we hope that we are worth the fee, but many times we as Americans don't even know the question to ask. And so I would be really open with the advisor and just say, tell me how you are compensated. How can this work out for both of us?
Yeah.
Right? Occasionally we are so unaware of investments that we don't even evaluate the offering that we're getting.
Yeah.
So that's where I would just say, be aware of how you are looking for advice in the marketplace.
Okay.
There are really good investments anywhere. I I think one of the most important things you can have in an advisor relationship is an open communication, so that you can speak candidly about what your dreams and frustrations are, and that advisor can give you the best guidance for your situation also.
Okay, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Going back to 401ks here for a minute. I've heard, save 10% of everything you make.
Yes.
Should that all go to my 401k? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So again, I think that's a really good rule of thumb where people say you should save a certain percentage of your income annually. Okay. 10% is a really good one. That might be something that's kind of generic. If you start when you're 22, as we talked about before, maybe it could even be less. If you're starting at 42, it maybe needs to be a little bit more. Yeah. But that's, again, where I'll say it's individual. What I will say about your contributions, either to your 401k or any other savings, is you want to maximize what you can get. Most employers have some kind of 401k match.
Okay.
I think the minimum you should contribute is whatever you can do to get all of that match money, or all of the employer's matching contributions.
Okay.
So there is no investment that doubles overnight. But if I put in $100 to my 401k and the employer puts in $100, that just doubled my money. That's awesome. So the minimum amount you should put in is whatever you can get to the employer match. One of the extra credit things you can do in your 401k is to have an annual contribution step up. I think they're more common now in employer-sponsored plans where you can actually go in and say, every year I want to increase my contribution 1% until I reach whatever percentage you want to cap out at. But what that does is it tricks you into saving better than what you are naturally used to. Many of us get a raise. That's a great thing if you get a raise annually. And so when you get a raise, you also give your 401k a raise also. You make a little bit more money in your checking account, and then your 401k gets a little bit more at the same time. So I think that's, kind of AP level 401k management. The other thing I'll say about contributions is that you want to, again, save as much as you possibly can while still maintaining your lifestyle the way you want it today. So whether that's 5%, whether that's 10% or 20%, put away as much as you possibly can because it'll help you in the future.
Okay, I love that. Awesome. Yeah. So one question I have for you, Matt, obviously, as we're looking at retirement and all the different types of accounts, we've talked about 401ks and IRAs. One question I have is regarding HSAs, right?
Yeah.
So
health savings accounts.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good.
I was like, what is this? So a health savings account. Now I've heard with health savings accounts, you should probably make sure you're maxing that out as much as you can. Is that because as we're aging, we're going to have to draw on that more? What are your thoughts regarding that? Or is there a strategy there?
Yeah, so the strategy for HSAs is, again, make a plan.
Okay.
The pretty safe assumption is that most of us will have significant health costs later in life. So a health savings account is a place where you can put aside money. It grows tax-free as long as you use it for health-related issues. So when you go to the doctor and you're paying your copay, that's your HSA. When you have the amount that you need to pay for that new knee surgery, that's your HSA. And so one of the more, it's relatively new in the fact that people are using HSAs to plan for retirement in that way.
Yeah.
You can put away a lot in an HSA. So maybe I'll step back just a little bit and say a 401k has a limit, an annual contribution limit.
Yeah.
As does an HSA. And so you can only put in so much.
Right.
Sometimes people feel really, really limited, like, I can't put in everything I want to in that 401k. A lot of people are saying, well, let me also fully fund my HSA each year. Okay. Now, let's assume you have terrific health. You don't ever spend it. That's awesome. Later in life, when you retire, it's still yours. It's grown. Hopefully, it can be invested, and hopefully it's been growing that entire time.
Yeah.
Again, one of the safe assumptions is you'll have some health costs later in life. You can spend it on those health costs. If you're just the picture of perfect health and you feel like, I don't ever need a new knee or, this copayment or that one, you can use it to pay your Social Security premiums. And again, anytime you pull money out of an HSA for a health-related issue, it's a tax-free withdrawal.
Okay. Now, I was reading this article recently regarding HSAs that said, similar again, back to the tax questions. If you can, because HSAs are, such a quote unquote safe thing. Again, I'm not the professional here. You are, Matt. But you should actually, if you can, just pay your out-of-pocket expenses out of pocket.
Oh, yeah.
And not use your HSA. But is that actually a strategy? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's pros and cons to that kind of strategy.
Yeah.
I think so rather than answer it broadly for hopefully everyone that's watching the podcast, I think I'll just say that's one that you would want to dive in with an advisor and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Does it make sense for me?
Yeah.
The answer easily could be, yeah. Or it could be just the opposite and say, no. You're trying to do something that actually is not going to be that helpful.
Yeah, it's not going to help you in the long run. Okay.
I think there's a few parts to that strategy, making assumptions about the underlying performance of the HSA. So again, if we talk about just the HSA account itself, there's nothing overly positive or negative about the account itself other than the tax treatment. But then you can invest your funds. And if you say, oh, now I have this extra or this little hidden investment opportunity, then maybe that'll be the advantage.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for answering that.
Glad you asked.
Yes. And thank you so much, Matt, for joining us today.
It's fun.
I've learned a lot about retirement and hopefully all of you have as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to hit that notification bell, subscribe to our channel. There's more to come on retirement for sure. And we'll see you all on the next episode of Guiding You Forward.